Tomorrow, Virginia voters will head to the polls for their primary, and the outcome of the election will determine who will be on the ballot for November's midterm election. U.S. House seats are on the line, as well as some local offices. And depending on which party you're voting for, your ballot may include choices for Senate. This year's primary is much later than voters are used to in Virginia. Earlier this spring, they approved a plan to redraw the state's congressional maps. But the state Supreme Court overturned the plan, which then prompted lawmakers to delay the primary. So how could all of this affect tomorrow's results? WTOP Radio Scott Gelman joined us now to help us answer some of your questions. Scott, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
I think right off the bat, a lot of people are wondering, how could this later primary, I mean, a lot of people are on vacations or out of town. How could this affect voter turnout?
Experts that we spoke to say that all of those things that you just described are probably going to lead to lower turnout than usual, although perhaps normal is what one expert predicted for a primary election in Virginia. And you just described how we got here, and very few people right now are talking about politics or elections, let alone a primary election. They're on vacation. They're getting ready to go back to school. This is just, quite frankly, not something that's on the minds of Virginians in the month of August. It's usually supposed to be in June, as you mentioned. And so experts are expecting very low turnout, but also because of how polarized the political environment is right now, some are suspecting that maybe there could be on par with what a Virginia primary looks like, despite the fact that we're talking about this here 2 months later than usual.
Let's dive a little deeper. In terms of that turnout, does this delayed primary hurt or help one party over the other?
Well, the consensus is probably not from some of the experts I spoke to, and that's because everyone is just a couple of weeks or months later here in the summer. But we are closer to November. There have been an increasing number of political storylines out of the White House. You ran through one of them affecting folks here in the D.C. region just a couple of minutes ago. So all of that is top of mind. But the consensus among some of the experts that I have heard from is basically folks who are going to vote in the primary are likely to vote in the primary, whether it's as it usually is in June or whether it's here in August, but regardless, expecting about an on par turnout, particularly given the political polarization that is existing in this moment.
Scott, let's talk about the big races. Which ones should we be watching for tomorrow? And can we expect these results to come in on time? We know we have seen delays in other states. What are your thoughts for this tomorrow?
Yeah, a lot of the big races are a little bit outside of our listening area, your viewing area, and those are Virginia's 1st and 2nd districts. And starting in Virginia's 1st district, you have a field of Democrats trying to unseat Republican incumbent Rob Whitman. The consensus there is the Democratic establishment is backing Shannon Taylor. She is the Henrico Commonwealth's attorney, the top prosecutor down there. So she has emerged as the front runner there. And then the other really competitive race to keep an eye on is Virginia's 2nd district, and that is where there's a battle to unseat Representative Kiggins, and you have several folks competing for the chance to do that in November there. Now, locally, around the D.C. region, there are also a couple of pretty interesting storylines. For one, Virginia's 7th district, Eugene Binman has been a target of President Donald Trump, has been a target of Democrats and Republicans in Congress. And so there is now several folks, Republicans, trying to unseat him there in Virginia's 7th. And then a little bit closer to home, even though there's not any surprises expected in these couple of races, Shawn, you have Don Beyer, who is facing several Democratic challengers. He's a longtime congressman. The consensus is he'll probably win convincingly, but still something significant there. And lastly is Representative Suhas Subramaniam finishing his 1st term. One expert I spoke to said that even though he is now a little bit of a well-known name, having been in local state government and now representing the area over there in Loudoun County in Congress, that first-term incumbents running for re-election are always a little bit of a risk for a challenge, and so there are some challengers there. All of that we're going to watch unfold tomorrow night, and of course all of that could have a big impact on the balance of power here come November.
Indeed, and we will be watching. WTOP Scott Gelman, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate you breaking that down for us tonight.
Thank you.
And stay with News 4 for Virginia primary election coverage tomorrow night. We will have updates as those results start rolling in right here on the News 4 Rundown. And then look for a full recap on News 4 at 11. You can also receive up-to-the-minute updates online and in the NBC Washington app.